Welcome everyone to the 162nd episode of the 988 Crisis Jam. Dr. Jack Rozel is going to be our featured presenter to talk about preventing serious acts of violence and how to build toolkits and teams that do that work. My name is Dr. Aisha Delaney Brumsey. I'm the Chief Strategic Growth Officer at Fountain House in New York. Welcome. As a reminder, you can get all of the content from previous crisis jams, articles, links to resources at talk.crisisnow.com. I personally use this website all the time to find crisis resources, and this is also where you can get the registration link. And it has links to the previous jams YouTube videos if you haven't seen that. So make sure to check that website out and share it around to your friends and colleagues. So since 2020, we've had well over more than 400 unique speakers, and there's space for more. So in the link, you just got the link in the chat. Make sure to send in your ideas for speakers, for topics. At the moment, we're really looking in particular for topics and speakers focused on youth crisis, but as you know, the Crisis Jam covers lots of topics. So send in your good ideas. There's lots of room. It'd be great to have them. So now for some of the latest crisis news. So New York City, where I'm located, sued social media platforms over youth mental health crisis. You can check out that article in the link that's in the chat. I know many of us are aware about some of the states that brought suits around to social media platforms, but really looking to get social media platforms to take responsibility for the different features, the way they're structured that can really enhance emotional crisis, can be disturbing for particularly young people. So really interesting to see how policymakers are pushing that. Another piece of news on PBS, how Arizona's crisis response network became a model for mental health hotlines. Just also a really good primer on what's been working really well in Arizona's crisis response network. This one was actually a surprise, a pretty big surprise to me, but focused on Southern lawmakers rethinking longstanding opposition to Medicaid expansion. And it's talking about potential interest in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi to expand Medicaid and to support people like the person featured in this photo who has had chronic pain and other long-term health issues that have made it so that they can't work. And that expansion would now covers him. I think he's in North Carolina, if I'm remembering correctly, now covers his healthcare needs. So really interesting to see how the political winds are shifting on Medicaid expansion. Really exciting here. There's an upcoming Crisis Now 3 conference in Amsterdam this summer. There's going to be a link in the chat of where you can register. I know many people on this call are already going to be in Europe because there's a number of other crisis conferences happening at that time. This one isn't happening at the exact same time as all those. It's actually happening later on that weekend. So if you're in Europe already, you could register and extend your trip to stay there. You could just come for this. So right now they're finalizing all the speakers and the agenda, but definitely register. It's going to be an amazing experience. Okay, one of my very favorite parts of the Crisis Jam. So we have the trivia hot seat up now. And for those of you who this is your first time, basically what's going to happen is we're going to get a trivia question about crisis. And then today we actually don't have a specific participant. So every single one of us in this virtual room are the participants. So our job is to try to together win this question. So the question today is, in the book, Perversion of Virtue, Dr. Thomas Joyner concludes the root causes of murder-suicide are tragic interpretations of mercy, justice, duty, and glory. When this was published, there were an average of about 150 suicides per day in the US. How many were murder-suicides? 10 to 15, 5 to 10, 2 to 3, or on most days, none. And you should see a pop-up right in front of you. Submit your answer, and then we'll see if, as a crowd, we have sufficient wisdom to answer this question. We know we have sufficient wisdom, but we might not have sufficient wisdom to answer this specific question. So put your responses in. Excited to see how we do. And I got a preview of this one, so I found it personally kind of tricky, but I'm really excited to see how this audience is, how audience is going to respond for this one. All right. So it looks like it's actually pretty split. I mean, the largest group of folks thought 2 to 3, but right 5 to 10 was right behind, and not far behind was on most days none, and 10 to 15. So drum roll. Let's see how we did. So it is true that while smoother suicide is not a common event, about 2% of all suicide deaths, these particular tragedies occur nearly daily. And of course, we often hear a great deal about them in the media, and they tend to capture the public consciousness. So on average, per day, there are about, at the time this was published, there are about 2 to 3 murder-suicide events. So then, while rare, it's like a kind of event that we want to think carefully as a field about how we identify the risks for that and how we prevent these types of events. So nice work, everyone. Also, if you're interested in being a crisis trivia participant, I know you can also raise your hand for that. And if you participate, you get a t-shirt, and a great t-shirt at that. So just a little bit of incentive. So we're about 2 years in. Well, we will be this summer. I'm moving the calendar along because I really need it to be summer, but we will be 2 years in to 988. So since the launch of 988, and this is a really nice quote from Bill Gates, just a reminder about the pace of change and our expectations around it. We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. So really important to keep in mind that while we've made great strides as a crisis field, particularly with the launch of 988 in 2 years, we have more work to do, and we have the timeline to do it in, and we will see big shifts over time. I'm gonna love this book. Okay, really excited for this talk. I'll call forward Dr. Jack Rozel to give a talk on building teams and toolkits to prevent serious acts of violence. Turning it over to you, Jack.
All right, thank you. It's an honor and a delight to be back talking about this topic that I am so passionate about. And we're going to begin at the end, because when I was last here about a year and a half ago, I spoke a little bit about sort of what was already happening in our world of crisis intervention in 988 in terms of understanding violence. And I left you with, sort of 3 questions for you to start with, right? So how do you understand your local rules and laws about what your duties are and what tools might be available, like, involuntary commitment and extreme risk protective orders? I ask you to think about, how do you build up some of those local partnerships and those local allies to help you think about how do you intervene in those cases? And I ask you to start thinking about what's the training that you can give to your team so that before you get that 9-second call that's silent and not quite sure what to do, if you have just maybe that option to make an intervention, what might we be able to do, right? And as we pivot into this, I note that just a week ago down in Kentucky, there were 6 bomb threats to schools that were intermediated through a local suicide hotline, right? So we are in this space. I get that we have a lot of other things happening on our agendas, but we are already in this space. And last time I did my best to make the case that the crisis system needs to really embrace competence in violence risk management. We've got a lot of similar risk factors. We're really good at working with people with really clear acute crises and maybe not so clear psychiatric diagnoses, which is a lot of what working in violence prevention and targeted violence work is about. It's very much 2 sides of the same coin for us, right? And today I'm going to talk about how do we strengthen our connections in the broader networks and some of the more advanced concepts of threat management. Next slide, please. So by training, I'm a general child and forensic psychiatrist, and it's only been over the past decade or so that I've gotten more engaged with some of our law enforcement partners. And they have this concept that I've really come to embrace, which is left of bang or left of boom, right? So if you imagine this sort of timeline moving along, that someone's moving towards an act of violence, right? So the left of bang is before it's happened. Bang is when the thing happens, right? That's run, hide, fight, and stop the bleed. And that's law enforcement response, right? Right of bang is when we're doing support for our communities recovering from these terrible events. It's the proverbial thoughts and prayers in the media cycle. I can tell you, over the past years that I've been involved in this space, being left of bang is far preferable to the alternatives. And I think we in crisis programs have a unique opportunity to step up to help expand the safety net. One of the things my bomb squad colleagues have pointed out to me is they want the phone call when the timer says 6 hours, not when the timer says 60 seconds, right? They have a much broader toolkit. And likewise, the further we get left of bang, the better suited our crisis intervention toolkit might be, right? Because a lot of the things that are setting people off towards these are crises. It's about the housing, it's about the personal relationships, it's about those acute stressors that our teams and our systems are really good at identifying and managing. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. All right. So, and the idea is we use a toolkit called threat management or behavioral threat assessment and management. And this isn't just some term I pulled out of the air. This is an idea that's actually been around for decades. There's a wonderful book by Mark Fullman called Trigger Points, which it really goes through sort of that detailed history. But this is something that's been around for decades. And it's a model that's been embraced by law enforcement groups, the Secret Service. This is a great quote here from them. The FBI's Behavioral Assessment Unit, Dr. Carrie Gibson, their unit chief for BAU1 is going to join us in a little bit, as well as lots of other sort of government types of groups, but also on the mental health side. My own organization, the American Association for Emergency Psychiatry, NAMI, the American Psychoanalytic Association, lots of groups have come to recognize this because it's a toolkit that lets us look beyond the very narrow scope of psychiatry, because so often violence is determined not by a diagnosis or a symptom, but the violence risk is determined by behaviors and the broader complexities of our lived experiences. And it blends, I think, quite nicely into what we do in crisis work in the recovery model. Next slide. So what is this threat management, right? So part of it is bringing together diverse teams. And I mean really diverse, not like the mental health diverse is we have a psychiatrist and a psychologist, right? But like really deeply diverse. And not just mental health, but also in a lot of the projects I work on, I'm sitting alongside law enforcement and legal and risk management and operational security subject matter experts. Because if we only look at it through the lens of mental health, we're going to miss so much of the risk factors, but also vitally the protective factors that we can amplify. It's an evidence-based approach. I want to underscore that. It's an evidence-based approach where we identify people at risk based on their behaviors and their communications, right? This isn't, I'm going to go draw a circle around those people based on their diagnosis, their religion, their ethnicity, or some other, not useful factor. But I'm really interested, are they saying, I want to hurt people, I want to kill people? I'm thinking about it. Those are the people we're interested in. So we're starting off with the people who've raised their own hand, literally or figuratively, to say, I'm at risk. We investigate, identify, risk and protective factors, just as we do with suicide risk. And we come up with strategies for prevention and follow-up. Some of this is case management in that traditional sort of social work sense of, hey, this is a person who needs help with employment or housing or, better social relationships. And sometimes it's case management the way some of our colleagues in the intelligence community use it, which is how do we develop a long-term relationship with either that person of interest or someone in their immediate surrounding family or circle of friends or social connections to help us keep an eye on that person, right? I can think of a couple cases, that my team has worked over the past few years where sometimes our biggest allies and supports in keeping tabs on someone who didn't really want to engage with services ended up being a family member who might have been about at the point to disconnect themselves from that person in their lives, but we were able to reach out and sort of give them the toolkit to stay engaged and to help get that person from a pathway to violence back towards a pathway to recovery. Our focus, again, it's about behavior and communications. We know that diverse teams help reduce discrimination and bias, and our goal is mitigation of risk, right? Now, I really like this as an emergency psychiatrist, someone who really has a lot of love for the recovery model, right? Because it hits a lot of our values, individualized assessment and intervention, using caution, compassion, and the toolkit of recovery, pursuing prevention as sort of our goal to reduce risk, to reduce harms, and realizing we may not be able to fix everything, but let's at least reduce some of the immediate risks. And knowing that we have some challenges of translating broad population-based data into that person who's in our eval room or who's on the other end of the phone or the text line from us. Next slide. And hey, not for nothing, but we actually have replicated research from a couple different teams in a couple different places, and replication in the world of psychology, not a bad thing. That when we do this right, when we line up the interventions and follow threat management tools appropriately, we can reduce some of the systemic racism and bias that's present in some of the disciplinary systems, especially in K-12 systems, which is, not the purpose of threat management, but boy, not a bad finding along the way. Next slide, please. All right. Well, one of the best aphorisms we have out in the field that I go back to over and over again from Jeff Pollard, who's one of the leaders in our field, is that we got to collect the dots before we connect the dots. Right? It's about the evidence, right? And kind of like in suicide, there's no magic formula for suicide risk, right? We know we've got certain screening questions, but we also know it's a real low baseline that we're starting from. And for some of our patients with the greatest risk for suicide, those basic screening questions don't get us very far, right? It's about putting all the information together and connecting that information, knowing that there's no one specific risk factor for violence. And as a psychiatrist, I have to emphasize that a psychiatric diagnosis or illness in and of itself is neither sufficient nor necessary as a risk factor for violence, right? So this also becomes not just about connecting the dots of information and evidence, but also connecting the teams and connecting the system together, bringing our communities and our partners together to better serve our callers and our communities to keep them safe, right? Just like we do in prevention work, right? It's not just a suicide crisis line on an island on their own. No, we're working with our 911 first responders. We're working with our mobile teams. We're working with our mental health facilities, our peer support programs, and more and more and more. Same thing in violence prevention work. Part of this is collecting the dots about that individual we're concerned about. Part of it says we're dots and we've got to connect ourselves to each other. Next slide. So a couple months ago, I was retaking my BLS, my CPR training. And as I want to do, I was not paying very good attention and instead was thinking about threat management stuff. So that's kind of my passion, right? And they started talking about this idea of the chain of survival, right? That we don't need cardiologists everywhere in our society, right? But if I'm out at the bar this evening and I grab my chest and I drop of a heart attack, I do need someone there to say, oh, that's a problem. We need to call 911. And maybe we're going to be lucky enough that there's going to be an AED there. Someone's got a pocket mask. They can start doing compressions, right? And we need this sort of chain of getting me from the bar floor, getting the paramedics out there to provide that immediate life sustaining care, to get me to the emergency department for the definitive workup and management, right? I'm starting to think more and more we need something like this around threats and violence prevention, right? And it begins with an informed community, right? We've heard the adage of, if you see something, say something, and that's great. But also, you got to know what to see and you got to know who to say it to. And you've got to trust who you're going to say it to. Because we know that most of the people who hear threats are our friends or family. And they're going to be concerned about where that information gets shared with, right? They don't want the SWAT team kicking down the door of a friend or a loved one. They want to make sure they're going to be taken care of appropriately and respectfully. And so that's the idea that we've got to have credible receivers, right? In public health, we talk about the credible messenger. Now we need to flip that around. We've got to have a credible receiver, the coach, the leader of the house of worship, the union rep, who can hear that information of, oh, Jack said something in the break room. I'm concerned about that, right? I don't know how serious it is. Jack's a little odd, but what are we going to do about that, right? We've got to be able to bring this information, these dots, to good teams that have the resources for the investigation. And oh, by the way, From our state and federal capital, we need the laws and the regulations and the policies and the funding to develop and grow these teams and these interventions, right? A lot of times I see some of these incidents that play out on the national news and say, you know, in a lot of ways, this was kind of predictable. And in a lot of ways, the tools just weren't there to stop it from happening. Next slide. All right. So a couple resources I want you to think about it as you build up your library, right? So one is a really awesome tool, and Amy Barnhorst took point on this. For those of you who don't know Dr. Barnhorst, she's a psychiatrist out in California and has what I sort of think of as a dream job where she works for the state and does all of their firearm injury prevention research or dissemination of training, right? And she brought together a team, including myself, a couple other folks from an organization called ATAP, to come up with a really simple tool on how people in emergency settings can go through and quickly screen and manage serious risks of violence. Dr. Barnhorst and I also wrote an article that we mentioned in the last talk about sort of quick mnemonics for doing that assessment. Find funding, right? I don't know about y'all, but our crisis center is not rolling in the dough these days. We've got a little bit of grant money coming in, but we can always use more. And the Department of Homeland Security, right, the other DHS, probably not the usual DHS a lot of us work with, Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships has, revolving grant funding. National Institute of Justice and a lot of states have funding available for this as well. There's a lot of great resources from our government partners. The Secret Service's National Threat Assessment Center, or NTAC, Homeland Security CP3, and INTER, which is the National Threat Evaluation and Reporting Center, and that FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit web pages all have links to a lot of really important reports that can help us out. A couple upcoming resources I also want you to know about. I had the great joy of writing a paper with Dr. Lila Solomon about sort of the process of left of boom, boom, right of boom issues for crisis centers, right? What do we need to think about? How do we respond throughout the process, right? What do we do if our mobile team is out and they're on site for an incident? What if they're the first responder, right? Do they know how to do stop the bleed? Do they know how to get off the X and get their team out of danger, right? And how do we think this through? And that should be coming out in a couple months through the psychiatric clinics. I heard just a few minutes ago from one of our editors, Matt Goldman, who a lot of us know, that they're working on their edits and it should be out hopefully in a few months. And also Joe Parks, Dr. Joe Parks, that a lot of us know with the National Council, they're working on the next update of the Mass Violence in America report, right? Final slide. All right, well, today we began at the end, but I hope that we'll be ending at your next beginning, right? By the end of the week, maybe even by the end of today, I challenge you to commit to writing out and communicating with your leadership team how you're going to think about answering these questions. How are you going to build and strengthen partnerships between your agency and the other potential stakeholders and the other sort of network around you for violence prevention and threat management? How are you going to expand the training and resources and competence of your team to recognize and respond to serious threats? And how will you go to bed at night confident that your team can be a reliable, effective, and efficient and ethical link in that chain of safety, right? Last time I gave you the answers, but this time I'm going to challenge you to create the answers, not just by yourselves, because like all complex problems, our best answers don't come just from ourselves, but from creating and growing and nurturing powerful teams. And I encourage you to start building and growing and nurturing your teams around threat management. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that presentation, Jack. We're going to move to the roundtable discussion, but stick around because we may have some questions that come through from the audience. So first, calling up Dr. Carrie Gibson for your reflections.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Jack. What I like about your presentation is really the introduction of threat assessment management and helping people understand how readily available it is and how helpful it is. This is really something that we all should be thinking about. With everything going on, we can be more proactive in this space, left of bang, like you stated. I think that there's sometimes a misconception of really what's happening out there. And I like the fact that you're being proactive in sharing that and sharing your story of partnering with law enforcement. I've been a member of the FBI's BAU for over 9 years. I've been an agent with the FBI for over 17, and I'm also a clinical psychologist. And at our unit at the BAU, we specifically work to prevent acts of targeted violence and terrorism. It's our #1 mission. And I can tell you, in this dark space that we live every day, it's not so dark because prevention is happening every day. And we're very proud of the hard work that we're doing with partnering with our communities. One of the key things that we know about prevention of targeted violence and terrorism is there's a link between suicidality and homicidality, like you talked about in the trivia part with Dr. Joyner's book referenced. We know that there's a thin line between that. And so when we, in our unit, when we're looking for that prevention and we're looking to be proactive, we say homicide prevention is suicide prevention. And we know that that's an important piece for us to focus on. And what I will share with you is that a lot of times when people are asking and talking about that, they're missing some key elements. You know, when you're talking with someone about suicide and going through that dark time in their life, you're asking about that hopelessness, that helplessness, and that's all very relevant. When we're looking at someone who could be contemplating more mass violence or target violence or terrorism, we're looking at that bridge that they complete from suicidal thoughts to homicidal thoughts. And you have to kind of walk with them across that bridge. They're not going to readily tell you, yes, I'm contemplating mass violence, or I'm contemplating doing something very bad today. Of course, that's something that's a lot of times very secretive to them. But when you're talking to someone about that hopelessness, that helplessness, the way you start to cross that bridge, the way that you start to push forward into that direction of homicidal thoughts is saying, when you're in that deep, dark spot, when you're hopeless and you're helpless and you don't want to be here anymore, do you ever think of people who put you there? Do you ever think of people that you want to feel the pain that you're feeling? Have you ever thought about who you want to suffer? That's a very important point. Now, everybody, you know, I don't want anyone to think that everybody who's suicidal is going to be homicidal. It is a very small percentage of those. But when you're clearly looking for that key piece of someone who could be pose that risk of completing that violent act, that's what you need to be kind of thinking about and walking through. Here at the FBI's BAU, we've been proactive in this prevention space. We have the Behavioral Threat Assessment Center, which has been around since 2010, where we have a multidisciplinary, multi-agency threat assessment management team that's being proactive in this space. It's the only threat assessment team for the federal government that's multidisciplinary, multi-agency. We're proactively trying to prevent these acts from happening and keeping left of bang. I will tell you that in that space, not only are we preventing, but we're doing research and we're sharing that information and really getting that information out to our communities. And we need everybody. This is more than a law enforcement problem. It is a community problem, and we need everybody to really be armed with the right information and to be proactive in that space. From a law enforcement perspective, we train every day that we can't arrest ourselves out of this problem, and we have to think more outside of the box with how do we help people. And what I'll tell you is this behavioral threat assessment management is that tool. It is that tool that law enforcement allows the ability to think outside of the box and have a different option than arresting that person. It's something that in the FBI we're proactively being involved with building those local threat assessment management resources at the community level, being law enforcement run in that space. We have to partner together in order to really be able to get in front of this issue that we're dealing with the mass violence that we're experiencing. With that, I want to thank everybody for your time and attention today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gibson. I'm now going to call up Dr. Chuck Browning for your reflections. Take it away, Chuck.
Hey, thanks so much. And I really appreciate the points that you clarified, Dr. Gibson and Jack. Thank you so much for sharing with that. I think just like Dr. Gibson said, hanging on to those two important phrases, left of bang and collecting the dots, really sticks with me. And so appreciate being able to work with you in developing a harm to others platform for our software design, along with Dr. John Draper. And part of that concept was the things that you talked about in the threat management benefits of taking a recovery approach, looking at the dimensions of desire, intent, capability, as well as modifying and buffering factors to help look at identifying a need for people who may need a higher level of support and intervention for risk, but at its essence, also helping support tools and training for the staff interacting with folks in crisis to be able to connect with them and offer support and bring help, and thinking about it in that way, rather than coming in like you said, to quote, arrest your way out of that situation. One of the challenges, I think, for all of us, and that's what I loved about your three questions to challenge us, is across the system in our country, what ways do we have to support folks in crisis call centers, mobile teams, crisis receiving centers, and other forms of the crisis continuum to have that knowledge and know how to do those parts of the assessment. And even though, like Dr. Gibson said, there's similarities in a lot of our thinking and ideology to suicide prevention, there are some unique differences. And then definitely the collaboration and interaction with a person on the call or with a third party who's calling for a loved one that they're concerned about, or a co-worker they're concerned about. How do we support getting that information, doing a proper assessment, trying to get to the knowledge of what's really going on. And then when you do identify risk, I think the next challenge is, and it's really in your questions, is what's the next coordination to the system of teams? And that's so variable across our country in terms of duty to third parties, whether it's duty to warn or duty of notification, and who can you connect to, and do our staffs that are doing this work have the knowledge and ability to be able to do that? Do we have tools that support that? And then finally, I think globally, developing systems that measure how well different programs are doing that in different areas and outcomes. Is it truly creating an atmosphere of diversity and an atmosphere of recovery and connecting to people to make an impact? And that's something that I hope we can continue to explore and be able to measure as a learning community as we grow through this. And then finally, an example that I thought was featured quite some time ago in relation to that coordination was the Safe UT program in Salt Lake City, where there was not only an assessment tool and assessment program for people in schools to call in, but a coordination of every school in that area in Utah being connected to the outgoing system and management of that, with some really good outcomes and interventions that were reported. So just thanks so much for your time, Jack, on doing this. I really appreciated working with you on that.
Thank you so much, Chuck. Jack, we have a couple more minutes before we have to get to our next segment, and I'm seeing some discussion in the chat. I wanted to bring you up to just respond to that. If I'm interpreting people's questions, there's some questions and concerns about the ethics of involving law enforcement in threat assessment, people talking about how the folks that they work with are really concerned about interacting with law enforcement. So could you speak to that concern and how you navigate it?
Yeah, and we could spend a whole day discussing that.
I gave you 2 minutes to respond to like a very long question, but I trust you.
So the work I do with law enforcement covers a broad range, and far more often than not, I'm not actually sharing any information with law enforcement of a clinical nature, but rather it's law enforcement coming to me and saying, hey, we have this case, this is what's going on. And sometimes they share identifying information with me, sometimes they don't. They're just sort of seeking my input and say, hey, this would be a great person for a crisis intervention. We could get a mobile team out. Sometimes they are sharing that information. Like, oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to get my mobile team out. I want to have my phone team following up with this person. I want to make sure that we're assisting with that involuntary hospitalization because, like I said, even though most violence is not about psychiatric diagnoses or psychiatric symptoms, sometimes it really is. And when there's that intersection, for better or worse, we have a good toolkit to address it if we're able to recognize it in time, right? And as far as the ethics, again, we're very careful about what information gets shared across which silos. We're all extraordinarily careful about this. We always talk about HIPAA, but there's also, the law enforcement has a lot of rules as well. But I also know that our comfort of working with people is based on building relationships, right? The quote is, if we spend a lot of time on relationships, everything else gets easier. Relationships are the intermediate objective to most goals. And I'm looking up to I have it posted on my wall. That's from General McChrystal. And yeah, right. When someone I know reaches out and says, hey, we need help with a tricky case, it's going to go very differently than when you get a call out of the blue, right? Our ability to call together resources when we have those relationships is important. And part of this is a lot of us in mental health aren't around a lot of law enforcement, and a lot of law enforcement isn't around a lot of mental health folks. And just as I've done a lot of work with our law enforcement colleagues about how to interact with us and explained, oh my gosh, if you're going to take a nightstick or a mag light and use that to knock on my office door, I'm absolutely going to make an assumption about that giant phallic object you feel necessary to have in your hand, and it will take the rest of the interview. And they sort of go, oh, right. We also have to work on sort of how we receive that information and not do like squeak out HIPAA, eek, and like pass out like a fainting goat, right? We've got to be able to have a meaningful conversation to build those relationships. And sometimes we build it over that heat of the moment case that's breaking at 2 a.m. in the morning. And sometimes we do it intentionally and say, hey, I know your agency is really involved in threat management. We're just starting to dip our toes into it. We're one of the local crisis centers. Could we meet? Like, can we get together for coffee? Do you want to come over and, hear a little bit about us? And we'd love to hear a little bit more about you. Dr. Gibson has been incredibly generous with her time and, in joining us today, but also joining some of my colleagues and I at the American Psychiatric Association. I make an effort to bring colleagues from law enforcement to clinical settings so you can see that they're compassionate, intelligent, wonderful people, right? It's sort of the doctor-friendly tour, if you will.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the presentation. It's
Thank
a
you.
really challenging, complex, difficult topic. So I appreciate you giving us an overview in those 15 minutes. I invite everyone to continue talking in the chat. And of course, Dr. Rozel, feel free to jump in as you see fit. Okay, next up, really excited for this. We have the SAMHSA CMHS update. We have Tiffany Russell and Dr. Laura House giving that update. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you, Aisha. So happy to be here, back again with the Crisis Jam. I just wanted to give an update because we've reached a really important milestone with our 988 and 911 coordination work. Our Connecting to Serve, a promising practices webinar series for 988 and 911 collaboration, just reached the midpoint this past week. It's a 6-series webinar about what communities, states, counties, jurisdictions, territories need to know if they are interested in collaboration for 988 and 911. We wanted to present information if you are just getting started with the conversation, if you're already doing the work, and how can you progress, and being able to hear from other states, other counties, communities similar to yours, rural, urban, tribal communities about what they're doing around this work. And so just wanted to share that we have done 3 episodes out of the 6 series, and I'll drop the link in the chat if you are interested in not only watching the previous episodes as well as the slides that are presented during those episodes, but also you can register for the next 3 series. We're going to try to cover as many topics as possible related to 988 and 911 collaboration. And we're super excited for all of the work that has been done and that will be done. Laura?
Laura, you're muted.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Laura House, and I am Tiffany's colleague and the External Engagement and Equity Officer for the 988 office. And we're also really excited to just share with you 2 activities that we're doing in the equity space. The first is our quarterly equity webinar series, which we launched on January 31st. Entitled Embedding Equity in the 988 and Crisis Continuum. We had 2 speakers and we had large attendance in that webinar. We featured Dr. Vivian Jackson from the Georgetown University National Center on Cultural Competency. And we featured Rebecca Boss, who spoke about the article that she did with in collaboration with the National Governors Association, focusing on breaking the cycle of inequity in the crisis system. And we'll have additional webinars in April, July, and October, focusing on equity, and we invite you to come. In addition, we will be launching an equity convening at SAMHSA on March 18th and 19th that focuses on embedding equity in your 988 and crisis response system as well. We'll be focusing on 4 of the factors that need our attention as we work towards equity in our system. Community engagement, service delivery, workforce development, and marketing and communications. And again, we invite you as well to register For that, you'll see a registration link on our Crisis TTAC website on Friday. So please join us. Thank you.
Thank you both. Those are fantastic resources. Really excited about the equity work. It's so crucial that we continue to push for a system that's more equitable and that addresses racism and bias head on. So thanks for that work, and really excited to look at those resources. Next up, we have the NASHBID update. I've got Dr. Jessica Pollard. Jessica, I'll turn to you.
Thank you. Happy Wednesday. This is both a NASHBID update as well as a teaser for a future crisis jam that we're planning on early serious mental illness. So we can go into more detail than just this few-minute update on my favorite topic, both early detection of serious mental illnesses or psychosis in particular, as well as specialized early intervention, namely the specialized evidence-based practice coordinated specialty care, a multi-component team-based approach. So what does this have to do with crisis? Why are we talking about this on the Crisis Jam? You may be wondering that. Well, because we know a significant portion of people who eventually make it to coordinated specialty care, specialized services for first episode psychosis, a significant portion of those individuals intersected with the crisis system before getting identified and referred for appropriate care. And unfortunately, a significant portion also have had justice system involvement even before making it to treatment. So we really want to make sure we're making use of those opportunities for early detection in our crisis service system for a variety of reasons, because we know that it's not only a lost opportunity, but also if we connect people with coordinated specialty care, we know that can reduce risk. So we see things like reduced inpatient hospitalization, reduced justice involvement, and really great things like improved quality of life and other kinds of functional outcomes. So we want to make sure we connect people appropriately to those services. And so part of our work in NASHBID is supporting through technical assistance, increasing the availability of coordinated specialty care services. We recently announced that we are partnered on the SAMHSA Early Serious Mental Illness Training and Technical Assistance Center, led by WestStat. So we're developing a variety of technical resources on specifically on crisis services and early serious mental illness, but also things like how do you finance programs, how do you address disparities and inequities in those pathways to care and access to services. So we want to make sure that's widely available. NASHBID has a history of developing early serious mental illness TA resources, and we have a lot of other resources in development, such as early detection guidance for early serious mental illness, what are best practices in working with tribal communities on early intervention. And I'll put a couple links in the chat so people can get additional information on that and sign up for the announcements on the ESMI TA Center. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica. And I do love how this slide shows all of the states that have been highlighted in the Crisis Jam, 33, and I know the team is looking to make it to all 50. So thank you so much for that update. Next up, I have federal update. Sarah Corcoran, are you here? And Joanna Rosen. Sarah, I pass it to you first.
I think Joanna's going to go first, and then I'll finish up. Joanna?
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to give everyone a little update on the appropriations process. We do expect to see an FY25 package, hopefully by the end of the week of March 8th, which is when the current CR would expire and some health riders outside of the crisis space will be expiring. So we're hoping to see that. We do have information that the top line numbers for the committees have been reached. So we're hoping to see those carried out as well, see what is going to be included going forward. But other than that, we don't have much in the appropriation space. We're still keeping an eye on it. This process has been very different over the last couple of years. Every year, I feel like we're always guessing and questioning what's going to be coming. But that's where we are for this point. I'll turn it over to Sarah for some legislative updates.
Thank you. And I definitely agree with your assessment of the last few years. In terms of resources that we have out there for you all, just want to give a quick reminder that we do have this resource available. We maintain a tracker with federal legislation. So those are bills that have been introduced in the House and Senate this current Congress, which is last year and this year, the 118th Congress. On the screen, you'll see some of the newer bills since we last shared this resource with you all and updated on it that have been introduced in the crisis care, suicide prevention 988 space. We do try to keep this updated as soon as we see new bills and we get legislative text. We've also made a few changes, including a little bit more organization into kind of subcategories since there seems to be a lot of bills that kind of are falling into that catch-all continuum category. So we're trying to be a little bit more organized in this manner, but you're always please feel free to visit that link whenever you can, not just on Crisis Jams. If you've got any questions about bills at the federal level, please let me know. But otherwise, we hope this resource is helpful to you all. And that's it for me. Thank you so much, Aisha.
Thank you so much. Always great to see how the what's going on the Hill and federally. So thank you for tracking that for us and pulling those resources together. All right. So now I have Dan Fichter coming up for the data corner. Dan, did I just say your last name correctly?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. I should have done a preemptive apology to everyone who I potentially mangle their first and or last name, but I'm going to turn it over to you for the data corner to get some exciting work to share with us.
Thank you, Dr. Delaney-Rumsey. It's really an honor to be here with you. I'd like to start us out with a quote. I get to make real human connections with people who are struggling and be a buffer between them and suicide. I get to witness the power of the human will to overcome feelings of loneliness, hopelessness, suicidality, and powerlessness. This quote comes from the Crisis Crowd survey. The report just came out last month. You can read it at crisiscrowd.org. This was a survey of frontline crisis counselors across the country. We heard from 47 suicide prevention counselors who have served at 20 different suicide prevention centers. So that represents close to 10% of the system. Through it, counselors shared both their assessment of the state of the system, including 988, and also some really creative ideas for improving it and moving things forward. Another quote from a counselor in the survey, I had an opportunity to say, I'm proud of you towards the end of conversing with a 12-year-old, and they said, thank you. No one ever tells me that. So I'm starting us off here in the spirit that the counselors at the front lines of the system and of 988 are really incredible people doing incredible work and with a lot to teach us. Getting into the data, only about 4 in 10 counselors through the survey said that they are always having an easy time getting support when they need it from a supervisor while they're on shift, meaning during a difficult call, during a difficult chat and text. 6 out of 10, at least some of the time, are having some difficulty getting real-time support. And this ended up being very strongly correlated with how overall supported counselors felt in doing their really difficult work. This can be especially difficult at 988 centers where there are particularly short time limits. Through the survey, some counselors shared that they're expected to wrap up calls, even with first-time callers who are not feeling suicidal in as little as 15 minutes. Again, this was an area where there was a lot of difference between 988 centers. The survey found that in some it was 20, in others it was 30 minutes, in others 45 minutes or an hour, or there wasn't a time limit, but shorter time combined with difficulty sometimes getting a supervisor's help can make things especially challenging. So I think one of the takeaways here is certainly to look carefully at staffing ratios, simply at how many supervisors are on staff and are on shift, given the number of calls and chats that are coming in and the number of counselors who are going to need support. Through the survey, one counselor shared a really creative idea for solving for this staffing shortfall by creating hybrid roles and inviting experienced counselors to play a part-time role as a supervisor or in a quality assurance or in a training capacity, which some centers have begun to do. But closely related to this is just the question of how much training counselors are getting before they first go on shift, where There was a big variety of response through the survey. Some counselors reported an incredibly deep and comprehensive training, ample opportunity to listen to real calls or simulated calls, read real chat transcripts, and role play full conversations. But unfortunately, other counselors shared that their training was as brief as a couple of weeks, that it mostly consisted of reading slides, that it, in some cases, didn't include any opportunity to listen in on real calls or to do conversation role playing, and that it really touched extremely lightly on some of the most important issues, and left them feeling underprepared. I think one of the counselors shared through the survey a pretty creative idea for addressing this, which would be to take some of the great training materials that some 988 centers have got and to share them out across the country so that other crisis centers and less resourced ones can have the same material for their counselors. And I think this is something where anyone on this call, anyone who's at an institution that's got the ability to consider serving as a national clearinghouse and a center for collecting and then sharing out great counselor training materials could really have a tremendous impact, because the great material, great training curriculum is there. It just isn't necessarily available to everyone in the system. If we can go to the next slide. Almost one, oh, sorry, we can go back one slide, I apologize. Almost 1/3 of counselors through the survey said that they rarely or never get any continuing education. One counselor said, I was there for 3 years and not once was an ongoing learning session held. The form of continuing education that counselors said through the survey they are most interested in having more of is hearing example calls, hearing what experienced counselors sound like, especially on challenging calls and in challenging chats. And this is, I think, even more acutely true in a work from home era, when a lot of counselors are no longer sitting alongside experienced fellow counselors in a call center and getting a chance to learn osmotically from experienced folks. And if we can go to the last slide, please. The survey picked up a lot of counselors' feelings about intervention, about sending police, mobile crisis, or other first responders, and dove pretty deeply on the question of disclosing those kinds of involuntary interventions to the caller, where some counselors reported that at their crisis center, they are trained in how to make a disclosure that they're sending first responders, even when that's without consent. Whereas other counselors said the policy is that we don't make that disclosure. And you can see through the numbers here that counselors in general were a lot more satisfied overall with how police intervention and other first responder intervention worked when they were trained and allowed to make that kind of disclosure. So this is an area of some inconsistency in the system that I think stands in the way of there being able to be public messaging about what 988 is and what people should expect when they use it, with regard to whether folks should expect at least to be informed when first responders are being sent. There is a lot more in the report. So again, I would really encourage folks to check it out at crisiscrowd.org. And Stephanie, I'd love to bring you in also.
Dan, thank you so much for that. I know you're getting lots of questions in the chat also, but you're going to be speaking, so you probably won't have time to answer them. But one thing, can you just say again where people can find the report?
Yes, at crisiscrowd.org.
Great. And also there's one small specific question. Is there any of the data broken down by state?
That's a great question. It is not through the report. We were careful. We really didn't want to identify any specific crisis center or to name states in a way that it could be identifying. But my contact information is there at crisiscrowd.org, and I'm very happy to follow up and look for any specifics and in a regionalized way if that could be helpful.
Thank you. That's great. So I will now turn it over to you two to talk about the article that you did, Stephanie, about this work. And you guys have like a solid 4 minutes before I'll have to wrap you up.
Thanks, Aisha. Actually, Dan wrote the article and it's fantastic. Thank you so much for contributing this opinion piece. So I wanted to touch on abusive calls and the feedback that you received from counselors. And one, what are they experiencing?
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up, Stephanie. So again, there was a lot of diversity in response through the survey. Some counselors said that they did feel very well trained in how to handle abusive calls, and they felt that the protocols for dealing with them was pretty good. But others really felt differently. A number of counselors said through the survey that especially sexually abusive calls, sexual gratification calls were sort of the defining hallmark of their experience serving on the lines, that these calls came in on every shift and were incredibly jarring, and in some cases made it really difficult to continue in the work. And again, there was a lot of difference in how counselors described how they were expected to handle these calls. And some were allowed to hang up on abusive calls, but others said that they felt that they weren't. Anything from being expected to offer a whole series of warnings and allow the abusive call to go on for quite a while before being allowed to end it, to other counselors saying their understanding was that they were never allowed to hang up on anyone and needed to allow these abusive calls simply to happen.
Dan, you mentioned a bit of a historical context, something from, I think it was 1969 originally, that was republished in 2012. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The history on this, I think, is sort of instructive because I think it is one example, and a pretty important example, of how sometimes the practices and the training protocols in crisis hotline work may feel evidence-based, or we sort of may receive it as a tradition and assume that it's evidence-based, but in fact it's not. And so I looked at some of the academic literature going back 45 years on this, and there was a lot of discussion of it, and some ideas, one of which was actually published in a textbook edition as recently as 2012 that said she is and must be a transitional social object, in reference to crisis counselors and how they ought to see themselves when someone is calling to sexually abuse them. And that was an argument really without evidence, without an evidence base, without anything supporting a valid concern that hanging up on these kinds of calls and not having counselors subject themselves to this kind of abuse would have a bad outcome or would put anyone's safety at risk. But these kinds of arguments, unfortunately, have been prevalent for a while. And I think that even in contexts where we are not intentionally replicating those very old and unhelpful ideas, I think we may inadvertently be replicating them, and that's why it can be useful to trace back the history of where some of this came from. I also looked at a fabulous 2016 piece by Hadia Braithwaite, who's now actually a senior staff editor at the New York Times, who wrote about her experience as going through really extensive training to be a volunteer crisis hotline counselor. And then on her very first shift, having about 1 in 4 calls be sexually abusive and actually being reprimanded by a supervisor for hanging up on one of them.
And so to wrap this up, I think it would be great, and I assume it harkens back to what you said previously, but what do you think some of the answers are in order to address these abusive calls?
Yeah, well, I think that I'm really impressed and honored to see a lot of counselors beginning to speak up about this and to share their experiences. And I think more conversation about it within our community will be really helpful towards converging on practices that are evidence-based and that really respect the humanity of counselors and the importance of letting counselors not be abused in this way. And I think more broadly, it sort of speaks to my hope that we can find a more continual way beyond this one survey to bring frontline counselors closer to our circle and bring folks into the fold on research questions and policy questions that affect the future of their field. And so anyone who's listening right now who might have the ability to do something like set up a virtual town hall and open it up to crisis hotline counselors across the country and invite folks in so they can speak directly to their concerns and to their really beautiful, brilliant ideas for making things better, whether it's that or setting up an advisory panel where frontline counselors can be continually involved. I really am hoping that we can just be listening even more closely to our frontline folks.
Thank you so much for joining me, Dan.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Back to
Thank you
Aisha.
both. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Dan. A really sobering reminder of the weight that crisis counselors and folks on the front line of the crisis system carry, and our responsibility for those who are leaders to support people, both for their safety and for the safety of people who are in crisis. So thank you all. Wrapping up, join us next week for Kate Peterson's talk on one LME MCO's approach to meet community crisis needs. Same time, same place next week. And then the following week's talk will be on hiring peers with a criminal justice background with a fantastic panel of experts. Thank you all for being here. It's been a pleasure. Have a great rest of your Wednesday.